Oh yeah, we're back. It's a waiver wire show. There were trades, there were injuries, there was so much stuff to talk about, and Michael Bolton's going to just ease me into it. Michael.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and my body is T. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood Gold, providing the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. The generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Also, check out our newsletters for your favorite team. LockedOnDaily.com is where you sign up and get all the information for your favorite team delivered to your inbox. I guess what else are you going to do? Double bang? Yep. Thumb it up. Leave your comments here on YouTube. I am back after a couple of days away. Not that there was a couple of days without shows. There was one day where I didn't have a show. I had to travel interstate for a wedding. And of course, when I did that, we had long-term injury news. We had multiple trades go down. Just wild stuff happening as I'm trying to catch up on stuff in an airport and try and make adjustments to projections and all that sort of stuff. So I do apologize that there wasn't a streaming show yesterday or a Dennis Schroder instant trade reaction show. But we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the Schroder trade in today's show. We'll cover a few things here that I just want to cover off early on. Thomas Bryant is traded to the Indiana Pacers. A reminder, he is bad. The Pacers have been collecting bad centers all season. They collect these guys that, look at the... I feel like they're a bad fantasy manager. They go, this guy's per 36 numbers are great. Let's try James Wiseman. But what about if we went for Moses Brown? He had a 2020 game. Hey, Thomas Bryant's put up big numbers in fantasy before. They're all bad. Every one of them sucks. So... do I think that Thomas Bryant's going to have a material impact on old mate Miles Turner or on Obi Toppin? Maybe small amounts, but the pattern is very similar for Bryant every time. Is he goes to a new team and they put him in there and he plays and they go, absolutely not. I'll see you later. The same way they did with Moses Brown, the same way they did with Bryant 3 times here in Miami. So I'm not going to be holding my breath that Bryant sticks in the rotation or matters. The other thing, speaking of backup centers, the Pistons waived Paul Reed, which was a little weird to me. Not that they necessarily needed him, he was their third string center, but the fact that they waived him with the new CBA, once you fall under that salary floor, you've got 24 hours to get back over the salary floor, otherwise you miss out on all luxury tax distribution payments. You don't even, in the past it used to be you had until the end of the season to get there. You got 1 day. So that means the Pistons are doing something today. And I don't know what they're doing, but they are doing something today. The fact that also they would waive Paul Reed when they could have apparently got a second-round pick from the Pacers when he is a significantly better player than Thomas Bryant is also very weird. But we'll see what happens with that move, and if Reed ends up going anywhere, I don't think he's going to matter anywhere for fantasy, much like he didn't matter anywhere this season for fantasy. But that was a weird move that portends something else going on. The other piece of injury news with Jared McCain with the torn meniscus. We don't have an update on McCain in terms of what sort of situation they're doing. Is it a repair? Is it a removal? We know that a meniscus removal or a trim, however you want to phrase it, leads to a quicker recovery. It might be 6 to 8 weeks. A repair is a 4 to 6 month, usually longer process, and a repair will end McCain's season. And in a younger player, a repair is a better option because once you remove the meniscus, guess what? It does not grow back. And that leads to those problems like his current teammate, Joel Embiid, is suffering where the knee swells up every 5 minutes. So I actually do think this is probably going to be close to the end for McCain, although in some meniscus injuries, the location on the meniscus of where the injury occurs means that you can't do a repair and all you can do is a trim. So maybe there's an 8-week return coming for Jared McCain. Regardless, he was a droppable player anyway for 10 and 12 team leagues, and that's going to remain the same. So yeah, that's all the interesting stuff that happened. There was the Paul Reed waiving, the Thomas Bryant trade, and the Jared McCain injury news that I didn't get to over the weekend, and I am going to talk to Dennis Schroder later on. But we're going to start just by going through our waiver wire stuff on this show here, and we'll just start with the most added players across the last 48 hours. And number one on that list is still Justin Champagnie on Basketball Monster. Champagnie continues to start for the Wizards, but I will phrase it this way. I'll continue to say it this way. The reason that he is getting these minutes, I believe, is because Corey Kispert, Kyle Kuzma, and Keyshawn George are all out. I really do not think that Justin Champagnie, a two-way forward who played about 4 minutes combined in the first 7 weeks of the season, is going to be starting over a first-round pick in Keyshawn George, over a first-round pick in Corey Kispert, and over Kyle Kuzma. I don't think it's going to happen. But in terms of using him now, sure, do it. Like, just keep rolling him out there and seeing what happens. The second most added player is Obadiah Toppin, who is putting up really big numbers. Like, he is putting up some really strong numbers. I don't fully believe that it's going to continue, and maybe that's where Tom Bryant's impact comes in, is that the tank goes in and chops 4 minutes off Obi Toppin. We know what Toppin does. He's a points and rebounds guy who hits threes and can have decent efficiency, but he never gets assists or steals or blocks. He's a horrible defender, and his minutes can fluctuate a lot. He's okay to use for now, but I wouldn't say it's a long-term move. Yahoo's moves are based on the last 24 hours, and the most added player over the last 24 hours is Justin Champagnie's teammate, Bilal Coulibaly. And Bilal, who had that horrific stretch of games, has been good the last, say, 2 or 3, and that's cool. Going at him. Re-add him, that's fine. What we've said with Bilal all the way through is the minutes are totally cool. He is getting those consistent minutes and consistent roles. It's like, to a lesser degree, because I actually believe this guy's got more overall upside, but like the way that we look at Keontae George, like, okay, yeah, he has these terrible shooting nights, but he keeps getting usage, and he keeps getting minutes, and he's in a role where fantasy stats come. Now, Bilal's role is not quite the same because his usage fell way away, but he's playing minutes, and he was doing that all the time, and he'd get you a steal, or he'd get you a block, or he'd get you some assists, and now some of the shots are going in. So we know the role is secure for Bilal, so yeah, we're going at him. The second most added player on Yahoo is Jaden McDaniels. I'm just guessing they're all streaming in Dawson here because we know that he's, well, or to be fair, the last game that Jaden played was great. And you do see a lot of this on Yahoo with the transaction trends is that they chase hardcore. If someone had a big game the last time out, like Jaden McDaniels, would he have like 18 points or something? People go, oh my God, Jaden McDaniels, we must go and grab him. With our understanding always, like, hey, when you add him, you don't get the last game. It's fine, but like you don't get it. And his role has not changed at all. And I don't think his play has changed at all. And if you want to try him out, go for it. Not a problem. But it's still Jaden McDaniels. The two most added players on Fantrax, which is a 7-day reporting window. Number one is Dylan Brooks, who is playing pretty well, but much like Jaden McDaniels. I think he just remains the guy that you stream when you've got like, oh, what do I do? Dylan Brooks, I guess. He's going to play 30 minutes maybe. Yeah, okay, cool. Upside low, and that's whatever. And the second most added player on Fantrax is Cole Anthony. Now, Cole Anthony's first game after the injury to Franz Wagner was very good. The second game was extraordinarily terrible. That doesn't change a lot of the facts around why we liked Anthony. The reason we wanted to have a crack at Cole Anthony was they need people who can create shots and take on usage. And he was the guy. And he actually did that in both games. The problem was that in game 2, none of the shots went in. But it still remains the fact that Cole Anthony is one of the only players who can actually generate usage, so we'll see on Sunday's game. He might have a much better game there. I wouldn't rule that out at all. Don't say you need to hold him. Like, I dropped him in one of my leagues because I needed to activate, I think it was PJ Washington, whoever it was, doesn't matter. I needed to activate someone off IL, so I said, okay, Cole, you're my worst player. I'll see you later. But I'd be okay to go back and re-add him if we find out he gets another 26 minutes here, has 17 and 5 with 2 threes. Like, that's going to be useful. So we'll just want to watch that one to see what direction it ends up going. In terms of the most dropped players on Basketball Monster, number one is Jared McCain. We just talked about that in the meniscus injury. He was a drop already, and now he's obviously out. And the second most dropped player there is Kelly Olynyk. Olynyk, even with the weirdness of Jakob Poeltl's 2-minute absence the other day, the absence of Scotty Barnes, he is playing basically exclusively as a center. They're prioritizing John Mobo and Ochai Agbaji, as they absolutely should. So I don't think that it's going to happen for Olynyk. I've got no idea why they A, traded for him, and B, extended his contract if they're going to have him as a 13-minute a night backup center. But whatever. That's where we're at with that, and that's totally cool to drop him. The most dropped players on Yahoo, number one, is the Hong Kong Mattress, Kaysan Wallace. Yes, Wallace played yesterday, and that game was a very weird game in the NBA Cup semifinal. And by weird, I mean these are two of the best defenses of the season. They are the two best defenses this season. They're two of the best teams in the Western Conference. And they're two of the best defenses in, honestly, like the last 20 years in terms of how good they are compared to league average. The Thunder have one of the best. I believe the Thunder's turnover percentage of the opponents they play against is the. Because I checked this out. I think their opposing turnover percentage of Thunder is the highest number that we have seen since 1998. I think that's correct. You can double check it if you want, but I think as of yesterday when looking at it, they're the highest opposing turnover rate since 1998. Because that's how good they are defensively. So yeah, that game was an incredible defensive game, and Wallace struggled. But what I liked about it is that he still got 28 to 29 minutes. They still went with Wallace almost exclusively over Caruso. And people, I guess, added him for the one-game action. I think that the Hong Kong mattress here is probably more, and we'll talk about him in a second, more holdable than that. The second most dropped player on Yahoo is Nick Richards, and yeah, you saw it last game. He barely played. I will continue to tell you, you can have any doubt you want about Mark Williams' health. That is reasonable. But in terms of who is the center on this team, it is not Nick Richards. It is Mark Williams. He's already starting over Nick Richards. He is better than Nick Richards. He is younger than Nick Richards. And the Omer Yurtseven effect definitely played a factor here. Well, look at Richards, man. Maybe they're just going to split him. Maybe he's better than Mark. No, he's not. But again, if Mark gets hurt, we can go back to Big Dick Nick Richards, BDNR. The two most dropped guys on Fantrax are Moussa Diabate. Not sure how he was still rostered in enough leagues, but that's another Charlotte center scenario, so get him out of there. In fact, John Armstrong.
Get that garbage out of here.
And then Gershon Yabusele. Although, I don't believe at this point we've had an update on Joel Embiid's, third broken face in his career? Sinus fracture? Have we actually had an update on it yet? We have not. So, we're supposed to get one over the weekend. We have not heard a single thing about it. And then we'll see. I just don't know. But yeah, USLA's numbers have been down. And I get why people drop, but you might be rushing. Maybe not rushing, but at least trying to get him back in action. We're going to come back. We've got more stuff to talk about. We've got Schroder trade. We've got must rosters. We've got droppable guys. We'll come back and talk about that. But today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood and Robinhood Gold. Yes, Robinhood Gold gives you the opportunity to do things that all those other Silver Spoon legends over there will be doing. The financial favors of the 1%, it's not just restricted to them. The other 99% can now get it with Robinhood Gold, getting you those rates and perks that are usually reserved for the old high society. Resourceful individuals. If you've got Robinhood Gold, which of course means you're resourceful, you can get the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold gives those privileges of the high net worth for any net worth. The generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Today's episode is also brought to you by BetterHelp. It is December, and we're talking about the holidays, which can be a stressful time, but it also might be a time of comfort for you, of coziness, of cold weather outside, warm weather inside. For you guys, not for me, it's going to be 1,000,000 degrees today. I think it's like over 100 here in Australia today. It's going to be hot, but you know what? That's okay, because the coziness, the comfort, the family, all that sort of stuff is something that happens, but it can also be a time of extreme stress. Therapy is a great way to be able to bring yourself some of that comfort if those other external things aren't doing what you need, or even just a way to help you keep perspective on things. So if you've been thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It is designed to suit your schedule. You go in there, you fill out the questionnaire, they match you up with a therapist, you have your session with your therapist, you talk to him, you see how it all goes. And then from there, if it doesn't work out, you actually can change your therapist free of charge to a different therapist and make sure that you're clicking and getting that right vibe going. So find your comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnba today to get 10% off your first month. That is BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba. Okay, we're talking waiver wire. We're talking all the things that we need to talk about across the wire, and we've done the most dropped guys. What I want to talk about now is the guys that I'm looking at as must roster. I think you know what I mean by must roster by now, but just in case, if these guys are sitting on a waiver wire, just have a look and go, should they be? Should I be grabbing them? I'm not talking about what's going to happen in February. I'm talking about like right now. And you might just say, well, I actually don't have the room, and that's okay. But someone in your league must be sleeping if I think these guys currently are just sitting on the wire. Number one is Goga Bitadze. I still have extreme doubt about what happens when both Paolo and Franz return. I have doubt, but you know what? That might be 6 weeks away. I didn't think that they would go with him starting next to Wendell Carter, but they did, and that extended the life here. So we keep rolling with Goga. But like BDNR, like Omer Yurtseven, I think there is a tendency to overrate how good Goga is. He's been solid. I like Goga a lot. But he's not like, well, once everyone's back, they're still going to run him 28 minutes a night and everyone else can get out of here. Because they're still going to play Wendell Carter and they're still going to play Mo Wagner. But that doesn't matter for now because they can play them together. So yeah, he's a must roster. Same with Eve Messi. When Zion, if Zion returns, when Brandon Ingram, if Brandon Ingram returns, it's going to be tough because they're going to have to get their best 5 players out there, and that does not include Eve Messi. In fact, their best 6 players do not involve Eve Messi. Is that correct? Yes. DeJounte, CJ, Ingram, Zion, Murphy, Jones. He is, at best, their 7th best player on a healthy team. So when those guys are back, he will not have the ability to be a must-roster guy, is my guess. But they're not, so who cares? We roll with him for now. Now, he's still got, I think he's a limited upside player who I'd love to block more shots and do a little bit more involvement stuff, but whatever. For now, yes. And the next guy is Cason Wallace. I know that he's been dropped in a lot of spots, and I don't have extreme confidence in Wallace, but what I do like at the moment is we are just getting 28, 29, 30 minutes every night. If it was a 24-minute-a-night situation, I'd say, no, what are we doing? We stream him for steals and that's it. But if you get 29 a night, you can get 4 assists, you can get 1.7 steals, you can get 0.8 blocks, you can hit 2 threes, you can get 7 points and 5 rebounds or whatever. He's not for everybody. And this is more, for the Hong Kong Mattress Cason Wallace, this is more tailored to category leagues versus points leagues. And if we see the minutes go back to 25, then this doesn't apply anymore. But must roster isn't just for Christmas. I mean, it is. It's just for this short... When we talk must roster, I'm not talking about hold forever. I'm talking about, like, in the short term. This is where it looks like, look, just go and grab him and we'll see where we go. And that's where I'm at with Cason Wallace there. So that's why I've got him labelled as a must roster guy. Similarly, when we talk droppable players, do you have to get rid of them? No, you don't. You can, but you don't have to. But they're the guys that I just want to alert that are rostered in so many spots that if they're sitting on your roster and you've got to make a move for somebody else, think, do I actually need to hold on to this player? And I think for a lot of them, the answer is no. Denny Avdia sits there. There is probably going to be a time when Anthony Simons is traded or hurt. There might be a time where Jeremy Grant gets traded or hurt. That might happen with Scoot Henderson. It might happen with DeAndre Ayton, the Snowman, who's ill at the moment. All that stuff might happen. But it's not, right? Like, what is? Because Ayton's out. But at the moment, Avdia is playing 25 minutes a night. He needs to be in a number 2 usage role to be useful for 12-team leagues. And none of those things are happening. Simons, Sharp, Scoot, Grant, and then Ayton. Avdia is not a prioritization usage-wise. He's not a prioritization ball handling-wise. These are all of the concerns I had with Avdia heading into the season. And at the moment, he's actually playing less than I thought he would. So, this is all about, like, do you want to wait until February or March and hold on to a guy that might be 170th during that time? And if you do, it's fine. It's absolutely reasonable to do that. But I also think that if you're in a 12-team league with a small bench, a 10-team league, that, like, if Avdia is there, like, don't bother with that. Move on. He's not that good that he deserves a hold through all scenarios. D'Angelo Russell's a bit of a different story because he is way better than Denny Avdia when he is rolling. If he's playing 30 minutes a night, he is a significantly better fantasy player. The problem is there are so many chances here. Reeves out, LeBron out, and Russell will start and then get replaced by Gabe Vincent or by Max Christie. And then last game, Reeves came back and he played like 20 minutes again. And that is like, it's not even strike 3, it's like strike 20 of them having chances to play him and getting benched and coming back, then getting benched and coming back, then getting benched and coming back. And that's just this season. So yeah, I'm out. I'm done. I got burnt on him last season where they went completely away from him. Then he said, all right, bet I'm coming back as a 40% three-point shooter, averaging 30 points a game and 10 assists for 3 months. I went, okay, like now I look stupid. And then guess what? They benched him again. Then they started him and they benched him again. And they just seem completely out. And he could get traded at any point, but we'll also ask the question, who wants him? It reminds me of that meme of that guy with posted like an Instagram story, you know, who wants me for real, yes or no? And it's like 99% no. That's what it feels like with D'Angelo. You know the meme? That's what it feels like with D'Angelo Russell. Like, who wants him? Who's taking him? Who's putting him into a role? All right, everyone clear out. It's D-Lo time. If you're not able to succeed when Reeves is out and LeBron is out, what are we doing? So, yeah, I think that he's droppable. I think Buddy Hield is going to be droppable as well, because guess who's not going to start for the Golden State Warriors anymore? Buddy Hield. We'll talk more about that later. Buddy Hield's predecessor, Klay Thompson. If you want threes, sure. Let's stream him and Malik Beasley and Gary Trent and whoever. Grade A Dick. But Klay is not a must-roster player, yet people are clinging on. They love the name, or maybe they just love sailor hats. The next two guys are Rui Hachimura, which I can just again tie into the D'Angelo Russell scenario. Guess what Rui Hachimura is? He's Rui Hachimura. Yeah, LeBron is out and missed some games, sure. And Rui would have the occasional big one, giggity. But he is the same player every time. He takes low volume threes. He's a guy that needs three players out to get usage. He will never get an assist. He doesn't get steals, doesn't get blocks. He doesn't do anything. He is a high-volume, mid-range shooter when given the chance, which is like, great. Like, no, we do not need to be rostering Rui Hachimura. And the last one is Terry Rozier, which is the one that I would be the most hesitant on out of everyone in this group. But we see it. Spo will go Drew Smith. He will try Duncan Robinson. He will try Jaime Jaquez Jr., Triple H. He will try any of those guys. And Rozier sits at 25 minutes. Now, Rozier has been better than all these players with the exception of maybe Russell throughout the last 2 years. But it's not happening. And if you start to get into desperation mode where you're slipping away and you're in 7th spot on the standings and you go, well, I'm holding him and waiting, like you might not be able to do that. But all of this is going to depend on what are the replacement options. How does my team look? How's my streaming ability in this league? Because if Rozier's my worst player, but I can turn that roster spot into 6 games per week, then it's an easy decision. But if the 6 games per week are 6 games from Maxwell Lewis level players, and yeah, that's a real player who's played about 2 minutes this season, then that's not worth it. But that's all dependent on your individual circumstances. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Start the season and get ready to tackle all the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can go and bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything that you need to place live bets on the NFL. You open it up, all the odds are there. They're smacking you in the face. And you got the live stats, and you got the live play-by-play. Everything that you would need instead of having to go to other sources to find that information. It is right there. So when you're hanging with the fellas and you got your old wings out, and that's not a euphemism, you're eating wings, you're watching the game, you're ready to place those live bets, everything is right there on the FanDuel app for you to do that. And as a new customer, when you go to FanDuel.com and sign up, and you win your first $5 bet, they give you $150 in bonus bets. So never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Don't forget to gamble responsibly. All right. We are going to get into the Dennis Schroder trade very soon. We'll get there in a sec. But let's talk about some guys that I was going to do the last week, but the last week's had like 2 games per team. So over the last 2 weeks, who have been some players in the top 100 that are worth a discussion? Number 1 on that list there is Royce O'Neal, who's been the 59th ranked category league head-to-head player over that time frame. He's been very good. A lot of that time has been without Kevin Durant, so I'm going to be very, very skeptical of O'Neal maintaining top 60 numbers or even like 12-team league value. But his first game with Durant back was pretty good. So I'll give him a grace period there. Dorian Finney-Smith had some ankle problems, but the last 2 games since he came back, 65th. And with the absence of Dennis Schroder, I don't expect that Finney-Smith's going to turn into a point guard. But everybody just does a little bit more. There's just a little bit more that happens in a situation like that. So, you have Finney-Smith might play 30 minutes. You play fewer minutes of Ben Simmons at center, which helps Finney-Smith as well. Is he an exciting option? No. I've never heard anyone say, man, I can't wait to add Dorian Finney-Smith. But there's just a little bit there where maybe not top 65, but top 110. Maybe. Obi Toppin, we discussed already. He's been the 79th ranked player over that 2-week period. I don't think it holds there, but for now, there's a little bit of interest in it, yes? TJ McConnell, his teammate, the 95th ranked player. I think as long as Neesmith and Shepard are out, McConnell is a 12-team league guy. And then we've got Kelly Oubre Jr., who was already starting over Jared McCain and had been doing some really interesting stuff with his rebound numbers. Shout out to Ben Mathurin. He's also been getting a solid amount of steals, but now we've got no McCain, which is a lot of usage. We might have no Embiid, and that means, as much as I hate to say it, that yeah, Oubre is back on the menu. And while the man might look tasty, I don't love the fantasy game, but all those things tie into like, who else is going to do it? Reggie Jackson? Kyle Lowry? The absolute washed ass of Eric Gordon, which, by the way, having a washed ass, good thing. Being a broken ass, washed ass player is not a good thing, and that's where Eric Gordon is. But Oubre's just going to have to do a lot more, and for some reason, self-branded hat legend Nick Nurse loves him, so go for it. And then at number 101, over that 2-week period, even though everyone dropped him after yesterday's game, the Hong Kong mattress, Cason Wallace, he's been really good. And yes, I am pushing the nickname Hong Kong Mattress because you need to be aware of it. That shout out to the bloke who gave me that idea, which ties back into the song that we used to use for Case and Wallace when I was used to use the sound drops. What does it mean? Well, there was a debate when Kaysen Wallace was coming into the NBA. We call him Kaysen, and then someone came out and said his name's actually pronounced Kaysan. I went, okay. And then, like, about 2 weeks later, Kaysen Wallace came out and said, no, actually, it's Kaysen. I went, too late, my guy. I've already created a song. And the song was called Kaysan, which is an Australian classic song by old mate Jimmy Barnes, screaming cowboy legend. But there's a phrase in that song that says Hong Kong Mattress, and that's where we go with that. So that's the Kaysen Wallace etymology, the Hong Kong Mattress, Kaysan Wallace. Anyway, he's 101st over the last 2 weeks. So, yeah, cool. That's where we got. Now, should we do trade stuff? I know that I've edged you along enough. We know what the trade was. Dennis Schroder moves from the Brooklyn Nets, along with a second-round pick, to the Golden State Warriors for DeAnthony Melton. And this is really, really important. And we had this problem in Philadelphia a year or two ago. DeAnthony Melton, M-E-L-T-O-N, the wave pool. DeAnthony Melton goes to Brooklyn. Now, DeAnthony Melton, M-E-L-T-O-N, will not play for the Nets. He has a torn ACL and he is out for the season. So he goes along with 3 second-round picks. So DeAnthony Melton goes to the Nets. Do not touch him in fantasy. He's also a free agent after this year, so he's not even going to be on the Nets next season necessarily. And they don't have bird rights because of the way he signed with a 1-year deal. None of that exists. So Melton has no bearing on this. Melton, M-E-L-T-O-N. Why do I say that? Well, there's another player on the Nets whose name is Milton, M-I-L-T-O-N, and that's shake, shake, shake your booty. Right? That's Shake Milton and DeAnthony Melton. Melton, we move out. He was the player in the trade, but we don't care about him because he will not play. I do care about him. I love him. But he's not going to play. Now, the trade has been executed, so I don't know whether Schroeder is actually going to be playing today in this game, but there is an extra part that's in the trade that has been added, and that is, as I choke, and that is the Vulture. Reese Beekman, two-way player, has been traded. You don't really see two-way guys ever get traded, but he did get traded. The Nets cut old mate Jackie Chue, who tore his ACL, so Reese Beekman comes across. Now, I think that this is important because for a couple of reasons. I think Beekman's got an interesting fantasy profile. High assist, high steals guy, which is really interesting. But the Nets' point guard depth includes nobody. Who is a point guard on this team? Shake Milton sort of is a point guard. Keon Johnson's not really a point guard. They play as a point guard. Ben Simmons is a point guard-ish. But that's it. There's no point guards on this team. So Reese Beekman got added in. 20-team leagues, 30-team leagues, 18-team leagues, maybe on Beekman. Maybe. But it's one to watch. So let's talk about, we'll start with just talking about Dennis Schroder. Because Schroder has started out the season ridiculous, like a top 20 sort of a player, putting up crazy numbers to begin the year. And then, really did start to cool off, which we thought would happen because he was doing stuff at incredibly high usage, incredibly high efficiency stuff, which was just seeming unlikely to be able to hold. He's been averaging 34 minutes a night, and it's come down to 22 usage, but he's the 58th ranked player for -1. He's averaging 33 fantasy points so far. That's 18 points a game. It's 6.6 assists with 1 steal, shooting 45 and 89 from the line. But what's really important here is that he is going to go to Golden State and he is going to start, is my guess. That's what Sham said. That would be the expectation next to Steph. But we've already seen this with Golden State, that their rotation is messy, and when DeAnthony Melton was playing, how messy it was. And Melton was starting. So let's just go with the base point of Schroeder coming in and taking the DeAnthony Melton 26-minute-a-night starting role. All right? Okay, that's that. We expect that Schroeder probably plays more than that, although Dennis Schroeder's a guy that puts up some okay numbers on bad teams and then cools off and becomes very mid. And I think that's what he is. He's very mid. So will he play 34 a night? Almost no way. Nobody plays 34 minutes a night on this team. Nobody. So he's losing 4 minutes a night. He goes from a Nets team where it was him and it was Cam Thomas and it was Cam Johnson getting the shots, right? And he had 22 usage. Now, this is going to be Kuminga, it's going to be Wiggins, it's going to be Curry, but it's also just going to be a team that just does things differently. So I'm not sure that 22 usage holds. It might, probably won't. So that's going to come down. he goes from a team where he was the point guard. And yes, Ben Simmons handled the ball, but played 22 minutes a night. Steph plays 33. And Steph will handle the ball, and Steph can play off guard, and that is true. But I think Schroeder's assist rate will drop. And guess who else handles the ball? Well, Draymond Green is his name. So Schroeder's assist rate's going to drop. His minutes are going to drop. His usage probably drops. And then, does he continue to shoot as well as he has? I don't know. Because one thing he's never been is a rebounder. He's not a super high steals guy. He never blocks shots. He hits threes sort of okay sometimes, but not always. For now, I would hold on to Dennis Schroder. For now. But I don't think that's going to be the case. We saw it last season. In Toronto, he started out red hot and then became droppable. This season, he started out red hot and then wasn't quite droppable, but was moving back down to the back end of the board. And now, minutes are going to drop. He might be a 28-minute-a-night player the way he was back in Oklahoma City in that season where Shea and Chris Paul were there. And he had some okay moments. But I don't think that it holds. So I would hold Dennis Schroder in 10 and 12-team leagues for now, but I reckon that in a month, that's not going to be the case. But what it does to everybody else is it hurts them a lot in Golden State. Buddy Hield was starting alongside Gary Payton with Andrew Wiggins out. Okay, that's a little weird. But if Buddy Hield plays 32 minutes a night, we like him as a 12-team league guy. There is no way that he can do that anymore. He goes back to being a bench piece who is a 3-point streamer. So Buddy Hield, if you want to move on from someone, you move on from Buddy Hield. That is okay. Brandon Pajemski was playing as the backup point guard, the occasional starter who wasn't getting any minutes. Well, guess what? That's over. Like Brandon Pajemski, 8 to 10 threes a night legend, it's not happening. He has been very bad this season, and the role has shrunk. He might be a 20-minute-a-night player. So 10, 12, 14-team leagues, he's gone. You don't need to roster Brandon Pajemski anymore. I do think that we still hold Steph, obviously. We hold Draymond. I think we hold Wiggins. And for now, we hold Schroeder and we hold Kuminga, but that may not last. Reminder, Steph, Wiggins, Schroeder, Draymond, Kuminga, that's probably the starting group. But how much do you want Draymond playing full-time at the 5? Then there's Hield. Then there's Payton. Then there's Pajemski. Then there's Looney. Then there's Jackson Davis. Then there's Anderson. Then there's Moody. Then there's Hall Pass legend Lindy Waters III. And we're back to a 13-man rotation. Now, I'm not sure that Kerr will do that, but even if he doesn't, the role ability for Pajemski or for Hield or for Schroeder just isn't the same. Or even for Kuminga. It's just not going to stay the same. So everyone loses value there. Steph, does he lose some value? Maybe a little bit. Because part of the reason why Steph, I thought, jumped up this season was that someone needed to take on more usage. And Schroeder in there, while he's not a super high usage player, he does do a little bit of alleviation for Steph. In Brooklyn, I actually think it's almost harder to figure out what goes on. Like, guys all gain value. Like Ben Simmons gains some value. Shake Milton gains value. Keon Johnson gains value. Reese Beekman gains value. Cam Thomas gains value. The ghost of Bojan Bogdanovic maybe gains value. Dorian Finney-Smith gains value. The 22 usage, the 6.5 assists that Schroeder was getting, somebody will get them. I don't think they'll get all of those assists because there's just no one good who can pass on this team. Now, there are two ways to look at this. Ben Simmons was playing 25 a night and started to push back to 20 a night, which made him not rosterable. And one thing that Jordi Fernandez and coaches in the past have done or haven't done is they've avoided playing Simmons and Claxton together. Now, of course, Claxton's starting at center, so with Schroeder gone, do you start Ben Simmons at point guard, meaning that him and Claxton have to play together now? I'm not sure they'll do that. I mean, that would be the logical move because who the hell else is running point guard? But does that mean Simmons gets 28? Does he play 22? If you wanted to take a look at Ben Simmons, go for it. The guy that has been starting in place of Cam Thomas is Keon Johnson, who has some flashes, but Thomas could be back next game. Also, I don't believe that Cam Thomas is a starting point guard's ass, to be honest. I don't think he's going to start at point guard ever. He is a shooting guard, and you do not want Cam Thomas running as your point guard, although it will improve Thomas's assist up a little bit. Could they start Shake Milton next to Cam Thomas? Now, Milton's a guy that's also a little bit shoot first, but he can pass okay. He's had some moments, but like the big man Tom Bryant, Moses Brown scenario, often he gets a start, he puts up good numbers, and then teams go, absolutely, Shake Milton, bro, we'll shut this guy down in 5 seconds. And that happens, and then he's done. So, overall, take a flyer on Ben Simmons if you want. Shake Milton's probably the closest player to having 12-team value, but it could be Keon Johnson. It might end up being Reese Beekman later on. I don't know. But then all of this is going to get upended when literally maybe the next game or maybe 2 games later, Cam Thomas is back. And then he takes a lot more shots, and we see where it goes. The question's going to be, is it Simmons that Jordi Fernandez starts? Because how does that work with Claxton? I think Simmons rolling with Dayron Sharp and Noah Clowney's second unit works a lot better because those guys can shoot. But we don't know. And this team is going to get upended, I feel like, every 3 or 4 weeks, the Nets. Johnson might go. Yeah, who knows? Does Claxton go? Does Sharp go? Does Clowney play more? Does Finney-Smith go? I don't know. So, would I take a flyer on Shake Milton in 12-team leagues? I don't think so. I think there's a chance of it, but I don't think that I would do it. 16-teamers? Absolutely. Keon in 20s? Yes. Reece Beekman in 20s? Yes. Finney-Smith? Yeah, probably would take a look in 12s. And yeah, do I drop Heald and Pajemski? Yes. Kuminga? Not quite. Schroder? Not quite, but I think we end up doing that. And what I think ends up happening is that we get no actual increase in number of roster players from Golden State or Brooklyn. I think Schroder becomes droppable, Heald becomes droppable, Pajemski's droppable, and like there's no one like Simmons or Milton that will take their place. Until Brooklyn makes other moves, which then necessitate further readjustments of the projections. But I'm not confident that we're going to get any big breakouts or any big performances coming here. And that's a Dennis Schroder trade breakdown. Let's talk about 6 other names now. Jaden Ivey is really struggling at the moment, and I think you can get rid of him, honestly.
Get that garbage out of here.
He scores okay, but unless Cade is out, he doesn't assist enough, he gets no steals, he doesn't give you good field goals or good free throws or rebound the ball or hit volume threes. He doesn't do anything. So if you wanted to drop him, do it. And I think we can feel not great about it, but I think we can drop Colin Sexton. Jordan Clarkson is back. And Sexton's numbers, even though Clarkson's been out and Markkanen's been out, like he plays like 25 minutes or 32 minutes and he's just not very good. So if you want to drop Colin Sexton, I think we're actually okay with that. I actually don't think we need to hold Steph Castle either. Castle missed the last game, but Devin Vassell is just way better. Jeremy Sohan looked great last game. There's still Julian Champagnie and Harrison Barnes is playing. And even though Castle's getting 30 plus minutes a night, he is not a 12-team league guy and has not been all season. So yeah, I don't think you need to be rostering Steph Castle in 12s. I don't think you need to roster Bub Carrington either. Yeah, Brogdon is out, but Carrington's doing nothing. And there might become a point in the season in March or April where Carrington's useful enough. But we are past Thanksgiving. He is a rookie point guard. He is doing nothing to suggest to me that he's a must-roster guy, so see you later. I talked Kelly Olynyk already. I just don't think we need to be holding him. And the last one there is Tari Eason, and I do think we need to be holding him. It has not been great lately for Eason. They are giving more minutes to Jabari Smith, and Ime Udoka is trusting Smith more, and he's playing 36, 37 a night, and that means Eason's production is down. And that is a problem. We talked a lot about this. When you come off the bench, your upside gets capped a lot, and that while we love Eason and there's some value there are some things that are a problem in his game that he still... we thought maybe they were moving away and Smith's minutes were dropping and maybe they're moving to starting Eason, but they're not. So the upside is limited at the moment for Tari. But I am still holding him for now, but in 2 weeks' time, that might not be the case. If he's getting 22 minutes a night, Tari Eason over the next 2 weeks, I don't know that that's going to be a hold scenario. A lot of people want to panic about the Rockets. Oh my God, Fred VanVleet's terrible. They need to turn it over to the young guys. Okay, that's not happening. We need Eason in there playing 30 minutes. Cool. They're like one of the best teams in the NBA. Things are working all right, despite they lost that game in the semi-final on the weekend. But like things are going okay. Those sort of wholesale changes just aren't happening. So I am holding Eason, but I am tempering expectations. And that's it. We're back. Waiver Wire Show. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed the Schroder trade thing, and we'll get more information on it when these teams play. But we just keep the eye on Shake. We keep an eye on the Vulture Reece Beekman. We keep an eye on Keon Johnson. We see what happens with Pajemski, that's an easy drop. But we see what happens with Kuminga. We see what happens with Schroder. We'll see how those values go, but I end up thinking that Schroder will end up being a drop. That's where I'm leaning on that at the moment. If you're leaning on anywhere, we should just lean on the thumbs up button here and on the subscribe button and head us towards 90K on the sub side. That would be great. Guys, it's good to be back. We are done here. Think about what you did good. Did you sit there and go, man, where's Josh's Waiver Wire stream video for Sunday? Well, I was away. And I hope you still did something good. Did you make the right move? Did you analyze things in the way that you like to analyze them? If you missed me, I missed you too. Do something good. Acknowledge that you did it good. Acknowledge somebody else as well. Rise up. Don't push down. Guys, we are done here. Unless we're pushing down Harrison Barnes. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Or Taylor.